This story is based on real-life stories of our followers and edited by me. The names have been changed to keep secret identity. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like to support us and leave your thoughts about the story in the comments. My son said we were going on a trip, then left me at a nursing home, so I left him with nothing. My son even helped me pack. I wore my best shirt and smiled the whole car ride. I thought maybe for once he just wanted to spend time with me. But when we pulled up to the nursing home and he grabbed my bag without looking me in the eye, I knew he wasn't bringing me anywhere. He was leaving me. Before I begin, thank you for listening to my story. Let me know in the comments where and what time you're tuning in from. It means more than you know. It reminds me that I'm not alone in this. And if you'd like to share your story with me, feel free to email it. I'll drop my email in the description below. Now, let me tell you what really happened. My son said we were going on a trip. Robert said it casually like it was just another errand or an overdue father-son weekend. Just pack light, Dad, Robert had said, his voice smooth over the phone. We'll be back before you know it. I remember holding the phone to my chest after he hung up, whispering to the silence in my kitchen. He remembered me. It had been months since he visited, a year since he stayed longer than a quick hello. But suddenly, he wanted time. Suddenly, I mattered again. I packed 2 outfits, my Bible, and the gold watch Martha gave me for our 25th anniversary. I placed my slippers carefully in a plastic bag and tucked in a photo of Robert when he was 7, missing front teeth and all, with that cowlick I used to smooth down every Sunday morning before church. I looked around my home, the house Martha and I had built from scratch, and felt something stir in my chest. Hope, maybe. Maybe we were turning a corner. Maybe my only son remembered who I was, what we'd been to each other. Robert pulled up in a shiny black SUV I'd never seen before. His sunglasses were too dark for his face. His hair slicked back like the men on television. He beeped the horn twice and didn't get out of the car. When I opened the passenger door, he smiled. It was a stiff smile, the kind you give a coworker at a funeral. Ready? He asked, not looking at me. Where are we going? It's a surprise, he said. Just ride, Dad. So I rode for 2 hours. The car smelled like leather and cologne I didn't recognize. Robert tapped the steering wheel every few minutes, a nervous rhythm that told me more than his silence. Where exactly are we headed? I asked again. He waved his hand and said, somewhere peaceful. You've been stressed. You need rest. I stared at the road ahead. Flat highways and long silences. My stomach sank, but I ignored it because that's what fathers do. We ignore things when it comes to our children. Even the things that hurt. When we pulled off the highway, I saw it. A squat building with beige bricks, rusted window frames, and a peeling green sign that read, Pine Hill Assisted Living. There was no luggage cart, no welcome banner, just a nurse in scrubs holding a clipboard and a smile too wide to trust. Robert parked in front of the sliding doors and got out without a word. I didn't move. Not until he opened my door and grabbed my bag. Robert, I said, what is this? He looked past me like I wasn't even there. Let's just go inside. Just for a little bit. Is this a nursing home? He didn't answer, just walked toward the entrance like he was late for a meeting. Inside it smelled like bleach and boiled vegetables. A man in a wheelchair stared at a flickering television. A nurse walked by with a tray of pills. I stood frozen in the lobby, my jacket slipping off my arm. A woman behind the front desk looked up. You must be Walter. We've got everything ready. Ready? Robert handed her a manila envelope. All the paperwork's in there. I stepped forward. What paperwork? Robert smiled that empty smile again. Dad, you've been forgetting things. You left the stove on last week. You got lost driving to the grocery store. You need help. I didn't get lost. I was looking for a parking spot. You were in the parking lot for an hour, asking people where you were. I swallowed hard. That was one time. And the stove, you know that burner sticks sometimes. Dad, you left it on with a dish towel nearby. That was an accident. You know that. He turned to the nurse. He gets confused sometimes. I felt the ground tilt under me. My knees went weak and I grabbed the edge of the counter. I don't want to stay here, I whispered. Robert didn't look at me. It's just temporary until you're stable. Stable? I'm not. He looked at his watch. I have to go. Go where? Work. But you told me this was a trip. He sighed. Dad, don't make this harder than it has to be. They'll take care of you. You're my only child, I said, my voice cracking. There's no one else. He paused at the door. Exactly. And then he was gone. Just like that. I stood there trembling while a stranger led me to a room with plastic flowers and a window that didn't open. That night, I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember where the sky went. I held the watch Martha gave me and cried like I hadn't cried since her funeral. The pain in my chest wasn't just betrayal. It was grief. The kind that doesn't scream, the kind that settles in your bones. I thought of the years I'd worked overtime so Robert could have baseball equipment. The nights I stayed up helping him build science projects. The meals I skipped so he could eat seconds. I thought of the day he got his first job and how proud I was. How I bought him a new briefcase even though my car payment was late. I never asked him for anything. Never made him feel guilty for moving away. Never reminded him of the sacrifices because that's what fathers do. We give even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. But now, as I lay in that strange bed with thin sheets and strange voices in the hallway, I realized something I never wanted to believe. Robert didn't leave me here because he was overwhelmed. He left me here because it was easier. Easier to forget me, easier to claim the house, easier to move on. And for the first time in my life, I let myself feel the full weight of that truth. I cried until the sun came up. And then I didn't cry at all. The sun crept in through the blinds, striping the room in long lines of yellow and gray. I didn't move. I lay in the same position I had fallen asleep in, if you could call what I did last night sleep. My eyes had been closed, but my mind never rested. My chest ached in a way no medicine could fix. Grief. That was all it was. A grief worse than death. Because death is final. Betrayal lingers. A knock came. Then a nurse entered with a tray. "Good morning, Mr. Patterson," she said cheerily. "We've got oatmeal, applesauce, and decaf." I didn't respond. She placed the tray gently on the bedside table, fluffed my pillow, and left without forcing conversation. She'd learned quickly. I didn't touch the food. I hadn't eaten more than a few bites in days. On the first day, I thought Robert would return, explain everything, tell me it was a misunderstanding. On the second day, I waited by the window. By the third, I tried calling him, straight to voicemail. On the fourth, I called again, disconnected. By the fifth, I knew he had cut me off completely. No return, no rescue. I was a ghost, and he had already grieved me. By the sixth day, I couldn't remember the last time I shaved. I didn't care. I let myself deteriorate a little. I let the sheets tangle around me like vines. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how it had come to this. I was a father who had given everything. I had worked 2 jobs to make sure Robert had what he needed. I had missed meals so he could eat seconds. I drove him to every baseball practice, every school event. I smiled through heartbreak, through exhaustion, through the bone-deep loneliness after Martha died. I never asked him for anything. Robert was my only child. There were no other children, no siblings, no second chance if he failed me. Just him. And I believed in him so completely. I excused every missed visit. I understood every forgotten birthday call. I clung to every brief moment he offered me like it was a blessing from heaven. I thought that was love. I thought patience would be enough. It wasn't. Now I was here in a place that smelled like bleach and sadness. Where people spoke to me like I was made of glass and medicine. Where no one called me Dad. No one asked about Martha. No one cared who I used to be. Here I was just a bed number in a file. I turned my face to the wall and let the tears come. I cried like a child. No restraint, no dignity. I cried until the pillowcase was damp and my throat hurt. The kind of crying that empties you, that leaves you hollow. That evening, a different nurse came in. She didn't speak at first. She just sat in the chair beside my bed, crossed one leg over the other, and watched me quietly. "You've been here a week," she said finally. "Haven't eaten. Barely moved." I didn't answer. "My name's Carol. I'm head nurse on the night shift. I've seen a lot of fathers like you. Too many." I closed my eyes. She leaned forward. "You think you're the only one this happened to? You think you're the only dad who got tricked into packing a bag and walking into this place thinking you were going somewhere else?" My breath caught. They always say the same thing. Just a weekend, just a trip, just a checkup. Then they dump y'all here and walk away like you never raised them. My eyes opened. "I know what happened, Mr. Patterson. And I'm telling you right now, you're not crazy. You're not weak. You're hurt. And you've got every right to be." I tried to swallow, but my throat was dry. "You can sit here and wait for him to remember he has a father. Or you can do something." "Do what?" I croaked. "Fight. I don't even know how." Carol reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She placed it gently on the tray beside my untouched oatmeal. "That's a name. Brenda Holloway. She's an attorney. Got my uncle out of here when his daughter did him the same way. Took his house, his pension, everything. Brenda made sure she never touched a dime again." I stared at the paper but didn't touch it. "You're still in your right mind. You still got your name. Don't let them erase it. Don't let your son cash in on your silence." She stood and walked to the door. "You call her or you stay here and let this be your life. But don't you ever say no one tried to help." She left, and the room was silent again, except now something was different. The paper was still there, sitting heavy on the tray. I looked at it until my vision blurred. Brenda Holloway. I whispered the name to myself over and over like a prayer. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the chair by the window and held the paper in my hand until dawn. I thought about Robert's face when he was little. The way he used to run into my arms after school. The way he'd cry if I ever missed one of his baseball games. How had that little boy grown into a man who could lie so easily? I thought about Martha, about the house we built, the sacrifices we made. She would have never let this happen. She would have told me to get up, to stand straight, to remember who I was. In the morning, I put on my slippers. I combed my hair. I washed my face. I looked in the mirror and saw someone I hadn't seen in days. Someone with fire left. I asked the front desk for a private phone call. They looked surprised, but they brought the cordless to my room. I sat down and dialed the number Carol had given me. My hands shook as I pressed each button. It rang 3 times. Then a woman's voice answered, calm and crisp. "This is Brenda Holloway." I swallowed hard. "My name is Walter Patterson. I was placed in a nursing home by my son without my permission. He told me we were going on a trip. I don't want to be here. I never agreed to any of this." There was a pause. Then she said, "Tell me everything." And I did. I told her about Robert, about the house, about the lies, about the way my name had been used like a tool, like it meant nothing. She didn't interrupt, didn't gasp. She just listened. By the time I finished, my voice was shaking. Brenda said, "I'll be there tomorrow morning. We'll start with revoking power of attorney and freezing anything he tried to touch. You're not alone in this, Mr. Patterson. We're going to take your life back." I sat there for a moment after she hung up. Later that night, Carol peeked in. I didn't speak. I just held up the folded paper with Brenda's name on it. She smiled and gave me a nod. I was still hurting, but now I had a name. Now I had a plan. Brenda Holloway arrived just before noon, wearing a navy pantsuit and a look that told the world she didn't come to play. She was shorter than I expected, with tight coils of salt and pepper hair and eyes that didn't blink more than necessary. She walked into my room like she already owned it and sat down across from me without waiting to be offered a seat. "You look better than I imagined," she said. "That's a compliment. Most people I meet in your situation are still sedated or silenced." I raised an eyebrow. "I've been both, just not today." She gave a single nod, then opened a thick manila folder. "Let me tell you what I already know. Your son, Robert Patterson, filed for medical power of attorney 2 months ago, claiming you had early-stage cognitive decline. He presented one doctor's note and a pharmacy receipt for a vitamin supplement, which he tried to use as proof you'd been prescribed memory support medication." "That's a lie," I said. "I know," she replied. "He used that documentation to open a legal file with a probate attorney in his district. He listed himself as your next of kin and began steps to liquidate your assets, starting with your house." I felt a sharp twist in my gut. "You mean he actually tried to sell it?" "He had a verbal agreement with a buyer. The sale wasn't finalized, but the paperwork was in motion. We froze it just in time." I blinked, my mouth suddenly dry. "And he used my name for all of this?" "He did, but he won't again." Brenda flipped through her folder. "Your pension, we're rerouting it back to your personal account. Your property, Robert's claim on it is being challenged as fraudulent. He submitted signatures that don't match your medical records. We'll get those voided." I looked down at my hands. I trusted him. He told me we were going on a trip. Brenda closed the folder. "Mr. Patterson, I've been doing this for 18 years. And let me tell you something, you're not alone. You'd be surprised how many sons and daughters, educated, church-going, smiling to the world, have a little predator inside them. What your son did wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy." I felt the heat rise behind my eyes again. He didn't even call me after. He didn't check in. Just left me here like I was nothing. Because to him, you're not a person. You're paperwork, a name attached to money and property. We're going to change that, and not just legally." Brenda reached into her briefcase and pulled out a second folder. "I need you to start writing everything you remember. The conversations, the dates, what he told you. If a nurse heard him say it was just a trip, write it down. If there were witnesses at the house or neighbors who saw him pack your things, write it down. Every detail matters." Carol walked in with a cup of tea and gave me a quiet nod. She glanced at Brenda and said, "This the lady?" "She's the one," I said, managing a weak smile. Carol turned to Brenda. "If you need anything from the staff side, let me know. I've seen what this place does to people like Mr. Patterson. Most of them never get back out. He's lucky you showed up." "I don't believe in luck," Brenda said. "Just timing and evidence." After Carol left, I took the pen Brenda offered and wrote my name at the top of the page. I paused, staring at the lines below. My hands were trembling, but not from fear this time. It was something else, a pulse, a vibration, the beginning of something strong rising inside me. I wrote down the date Robert called me. The way he said to pack light. I wrote down the last conversation we had before he dropped me off. I remembered him saying, "You've been forgetting things," as if I were a burden, not a father. I wrote until my fingers cramped. Brenda scanned the notes and nodded. "Good start. We'll add affidavits and subpoena records if necessary. This won't just be a reversal. It'll be a message." "What kind of message?" "The kind that tells your son he messed with the wrong man." I couldn't help but let out a bitter chuckle. I never thought I'd be the kind of father who needed a lawyer to protect him from his own child. Brenda softened just a bit. "You're not that kind of father. You're the kind of father who gave everything and asked for nothing. That's exactly why men like you become targets. But that stops now." That night, I sat up in bed for the first time since I'd arrived. Carol brought me a warm dinner and said, "You eating now? That must mean you're getting your fight back." I nodded. "I've got someone on my side now." She grinned. "No, you've got yourself on your side now. That's the difference." I ate every bite. Later, I picked up the pen again and kept writing. I remembered the phone bill that had gone unpaid when Robert was in college and how I went without heat one winter just so he could study abroad. I remembered buying his first suit by hand. I remembered all the ways I made my love invisible so his could shine. He didn't abandon me because I failed him. He abandoned me because he thought I was too old to remember what he'd taken. But I remembered everything, every lie, every detail. And soon, so would the court. Over the next 3 weeks, my name began to come back to me, not just legally, but spiritually. Carol said I started walking different. The other residents noticed, too. They used to whisper like I was one of the ones who'd lost their mind. Now they looked at me with curiosity, like I might just make it out of this place. Brenda worked fast. She called me twice a week with updates, and each time her voice got sharper, more focused. "The house is safe for now," she said during our Tuesday call. "The pension deposits have been frozen from Robert's account, and we filed the petition to revoke his power of attorney. The hearing scheduled in 30 days. 30 days. That was how long I had to wait before I could step back into my own life. Until then, I stayed quiet but alert. I listened. I watched. I kept a notebook hidden behind the radiator and filled it with every bit of useful information. Dates, staff comments, things Robert had said the day he left me here. On day 12, I asked Carol if she remembered anything Robert said when he checked me in. Carol tilted her head and said, "He told the receptionist you had early-onset memory issues. Said you'd agreed to the placement, that you were just getting confused lately." I knew it was shady, but people say all kinds of things when they're abandoning someone. "Would you write that down?" I asked. "Gladly." Carol wrote a full statement on nursing home letterhead and gave it to me folded in half. I added it to Brenda's growing evidence pile. Every day that passed, I moved more intentionally. I shaved again. I walked the hallway on my own. I started making phone calls on the facility phone. Old friends, neighbors, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Every person I talked to was shocked to hear what had happened. A few had already seen the "for sale" sign Robert posted on my front lawn. One neighbor even said he overheard Robert telling a visitor that, "Dad isn't doing well, but he's comfortable now." Comfortable? That was the word he used after locking me away and trying to erase me from my own home. I shared all of this with Brenda. She wasn't surprised. "He's already positioning himself as the grieving son," Brenda said. "That'll help us because once we show the court that you're not only competent but alert and active, he'll look like a manipulator." I wanted to ask what kind of punishment Robert might face. But something in me couldn't get the words out. I wasn't sure I wanted him punished, at least not in the courtroom sense. I wanted him to feel what I felt. To feel discarded, powerless, forgotten. That was the kind of pain that changed a person. On day 16, I received a letter in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was Robert's. I opened it slowly, hands steady, even though my heart had already dropped. "Dad, I hope you're well. I'm sorry if things got messy. I was just trying to do what was best. I know it may not seem like it now, but I had good intentions. Maybe we can talk soon and sort this out. Love, Robert." No apology, no explanation, just a vague defense wrapped in a lie. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I folded the letter neatly and placed it in a clean envelope marked "Evidence." Then I wrote my own letter, just one line, addressed to no one in particular: "You took my trust and turned it into a weapon. I won't let you aim it at me again." That night, Carol brought me a warm cup of tea and a slice of lemon pound cake she made at home. She sat beside my bed and asked, "You ready for what's coming?" "I'm ready to go home," I said. "And if he shows up? What if he tries to talk his way out of this?" I looked her in the eye. "He can say whatever he wants, but he won't be walking back into my house. Not with keys, not with my blessing, and not with a single thread of inheritance." Carol grinned. "That's the Walter I've been waiting to see." I smiled just a little. "That's the Walter I thought I lost." On day 21, Brenda called again. "Good news. We got confirmation. The judge has reviewed the documents and approved your immediate release from the facility pending the hearing. You're not under any legal hold. That means you can leave as soon as I get you." "When?" "I'll be there Thursday morning." I pressed the phone to my chest and closed my eyes. I whispered Martha's name under my breath. I felt like I could finally breathe again. That night, I didn't sleep much. I packed my few belongings, my Bible, my slippers, Carol's letter, and my notebook. I folded my clothes like I was moving out of prison. In a way, I was. On Thursday morning, I put on my best shirt, combed my hair, and sat in the lobby with my chin lifted high. Brenda pulled up right on time in a dark blue sedan. She opened the passenger door like I was royalty. As we drove away from Pine Hill, I looked back one last time, not in sadness, but in clarity. That building never broke me, but it almost did. "You nervous?" Brenda asked. "No," I said. "I'm done being afraid." We drove in silence most of the way. When we pulled into my neighborhood, I felt my hands clench. I didn't know what I expected to find, but my house was still there. No lockbox, no moving truck, just a weathered, "For sale" sign leaning against the porch. Brenda turned off the engine. "It's yours again, legally and spiritually." I stepped out slowly. The walkway was cracked in places, but it felt solid under my feet. I walked to the front door and inserted my key, turned the handle, and stepped inside. The house was exactly as I'd left it, a little dusty, but untouched. The furniture was there, the photos, even Martha's favorite chair. But on the counter sat a second letter, my name on the front in the same handwriting. Another note from Robert. I opened it and read the words carefully: "Sorry if things got messy. I was only trying to help. Let's talk." I folded it, walked to the fireplace, and burned it to ash. The smoke rose and twisted like a spirit finally set free. I stood in the doorway of my own kitchen and exhaled. I was home, and I was nobody's burden. The courtroom smelled like dust and old paper. I sat in the front row beside Brenda, watching the judge flip through our file with a frown that deepened by the second. Across the aisle sat an empty chair. Robert hadn't shown up. No attorney, no statement, just silence. It was almost insulting, the way he refused to face me even now. Brenda said it wasn't unusual. People like Robert rarely believed the consequences would catch them. They live behind polite smiles, pretending what they did wasn't so bad, until the law reminds them otherwise. The judge cleared his throat and looked down over his glasses. "I've reviewed the statements, medical records, financial documentation, and the witness testimony from Miss James and Miss Holloway. It's abundantly clear that Mr. Patterson was placed into Pine Hill assisted living under false pretenses. The documentation provided to justify his admission was misleading, unauthorized, and in some cases, forged. He paused and looked at me directly. Mr. Patterson, I commend your resilience and your clarity in defending your rights. I nodded but said nothing. My hands were folded in my lap, palms warm and steady. Effective immediately, the judge continued, Robert Patterson is stripped of all rights pertaining to Mr. Patterson's estate, finances, and care. The power of attorney is void. His name is to be removed from all financial accounts and legal documents under Mr. Patterson's control. Furthermore, the court will issue a permanent protective order to prevent Mr. Patterson from accessing, selling, or claiming any assets belonging to Walter Patterson. Brenda didn't smile. She just leaned slightly toward me and whispered, "It's done." But I already knew. I had known the moment Robert didn't show up. That was his admission, not of guilt, but of shame. He couldn't sit in a room and face the man he tried to disappear. As we left the courthouse, the sun hit my face in a way that made me close my eyes. Not to block the light, but to absorb it, to remember what it felt like to walk freely in the world without someone trying to speak over my name. I didn't say much on the ride home. Brenda gave me space, letting the quiet fill with victory instead of words. When I got home, I brewed a pot of coffee and opened the living room window. The breeze carried the smell of cut grass and honeysuckle, reminded me of Martha, of porch evenings and gospel songs on the radio. I pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and began writing my new will by hand. Not the legal one Brenda had filed, but my personal legacy, the one I would leave behind in a place Robert could never touch. To Carol, I left my wedding ring. She had cared for me with more honesty than my own blood. To Brenda, I left my antique desk and every journal I had written since Martha passed. She had helped me recover not just my life but my voice. To the Literacy Foundation Martha and I had supported for years, I left the house. Every brick, every creak, every piece of it. A house is never just a building, it's a story, and stories deserve to live. And to Robert, I left a single note tucked into the pocket of the original will he had tried to rewrite, "You taught me what love isn't." That was the last lesson I needed. I sealed everything in an envelope and placed it in my safe. Then I turned off the lights and stood in the middle of my kitchen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the clock on the wall. Normal sounds, peaceful ones, sounds that told me I had survived. Later that week, I got a call from one of the neighbors. She said Robert had been seen getting into a rideshare carrying 2 suitcases and looking like he hadn't slept in days. The condo he bought with my stolen pension money was under foreclosure, and the job he had lined up fell through once the fraud charges were filed. He was staying with a friend for now. No permanent address, no income. I didn't ask for more details. I didn't need to. That chapter was already closed. The mail came that afternoon. Nothing urgent. A grocery flyer. A letter from the senior center inviting me to a woodworking class. I smiled at the thought of it. Sawdust and sandpaper and something new. I'd always enjoyed working with my hands, but maybe it was time to create something just for me. I spent the evening on the porch with a notebook, jotting down recipes I hadn't made in years. Martha's pot roast, cornbread, my father's famous chili. I would cook again. I would invite people into my home again, not to care for them, but to celebrate with them, to live fully and without fear. Around 9 o'clock, I turned on the porch light and locked the front door. I stood for a moment, hand resting on the frame, and looked around my living room. The house was quiet but not empty. It breathed with me, held me, remembered me. I lit a candle and placed it beside the photo of Martha. I whispered, "I'm all right now." He didn't win. Then I sat down and watched the candle flicker in the dark. Outside, the wind stirred the trees gently. No noise, no more pretending, no more lies, just peace. I didn't get everything back. Some things don't come back. But I got the one thing he thought I'd lost forever. I got myself. And that was more than enough.